Hello, it's Brad Laurie, your BlockchainBrad, and today I'm honoured to speak with Li Jun. He is the founder of Ontology. He's well known in the space for being one of the more reputable founders for a very prestigious and popular blockchain startup, and a very complex one indeed. Li Jun, thank you very much for being on the channel today. I appreciate your time. I know you're busy.
Hi, Brad. It's great to be here again. Yeah, nice to talk to you.
Always good to catch up with you. Now, you've been really busy. The whole idea of this is to provide you, the crypto community, with a free update about what Ontology has been doing in their offices and with the tech. Now, again, Ontology is all about that trust. So let's start there for a moment with regard to a bit of a quick recap on any new terminology, any new constructs or ideas that you have added into the Ontology definition mix.
Okay, this quarter we have a very good progress in technology part. In the infrastructure level, the sharding and the cross-chain protocol will be released to the testnet. That's almost the first one public blockchain. They have implemented that's two parts in same time. And include that, we also have a multiple layer solution have designed, also released. And we also have a decentralized storage protocol will be integrated with Ontology as well. That means in the storage, the sharding, the scalability, we have ready for those kind of the huge scope, large scope application running on that. Yeah.
Right, so sharding, you're also looking at storage, there's a lot going on. Can you tell us a bit about the kind of success you've had with the sharding in terms of stress tests, or tests rather, to expand the scalability via the sharding so far?
Yeah, this sharding is in last year, a lot of sharding project and design was talked, and but one thing is mostly is focused on transaction sharding. But transaction sharding cannot support a lot of real scenarios, since a lot of real scenarios they needed to the sharding can need to support the state, the data, the smart contract. So we actually Ontology has designed a new sharding protocols that can support both network transaction and state smart contract sharding. We have released our paper last year, end of last year. And in this quarter and Q1 and Q2, we are doing the technical implementation. It's already close to finished the implementation in first division, and we will release to the testnet for that. And that means you also can do sharding with a smart contract with the status that can support all kinds of business scenarios.
Okay, now in that context, as you just mentioned before, Li Jun, there are companies doing sharding as their core technology. Now, does that make them obsolete for Ontology? For example, Zilliqa, is well known for its sharding. Then we have Near Protocol, we have Elrond doing their adaptive state sharding. We have all kinds of sharding. There could be a sharding showdown. There's so many. But because you're doing your own, does it make the others superfluous?
I don't want to say that. It's because every project has their own sharding protocol to do that. But direction, direction is a similar direction, because we want to have a scalability. So Ontology is just want to cover more scenarios, because Ontology want to support a real business. So the only transaction sharding cannot support our scenarios we are facing. So that's why we have to design our own sharding protocol to support that.
Makes a lot of sense. Now, how is the business going? We always talk about enterprise whenever we catch up, and that's because Ontology represents real deal enterprises, real deal partnerships, and real ecosystems beyond crypto. So how's it all going in terms of building out real negotiations and partnerships with businesses today?
Yeah, compared with community-based DApps, the real business DApps will have a long process for the engagement, right? And but currently we have the multiple the real business the application some is be launched, some is in the progress will be launched very soon. For example, some of the data exchange in the healthcare data exchange. The apps, and also we are talk with the healthcare application in China. They have a lot of application they want to link together with the decentralized. That is healthcare parts. And also we are doing a new product called Ontology sourcing. The sourcing is kind of tracking protocols. They can tracking the copyrights, tracking the virtual content, and the application will be launched in this month as well. They can use to tracking the content like video, audio, picture in the application to do that. Also, we also talk to with some enterprise. We design the solution, but of course there will be a long process for those kind of large enterprise for that. Yeah, we are doing the progress for that. Yeah.
There's obviously so much happening, Li Jun, with your ecosystem. One of the things I have noticed in your report recently was that the DApps that you mentioned, they're growing. Currently, there's over 30 DApps that you have on board. I want to find out what the status is, not just of the number, but of the nature as well of the DApps as you're building out.
To be honest, currently most DApps is more focused on game or those kind of application. Also include other, but game is still the largest part for the application. Game is problems. A lot of game apps is a short life cycle. Yes, in the whole application running on it. But currently, the application on Ontology is some good application. They are running good. They are already over several months. Still have a good activity every day, and that is a good point. And in next phase, we want to involve more and more the enterprise level application. There will be long-term application. For example, the at least will be running 1 year or several years. There will be long-term application. That is key things. In the game application, currently, all the game application in different public blockchains still very short life cycle. Almost every several months, they will have another application, another kind of application will coming. The old will be died. That is problem right now.
Right. And, so how do we make sure though, Li Jun, that the ones you're building and you're onboarding are real and legitimate and have real use case? Because as you've always said, a lot of the apps that are onboarding onto platforms are, very transient in value because they're gaming or they're gambling centered. They're for that quick attention. But what about yours? Are they built with strong infrastructure? Are they tokenized in some of these instances? The majority are. And are they built to really build the integrity and quality of Ontology by reflecting that in what they're trying to do?
Yeah, the good things is even the game application, for example, running Ontology, they still can tokenize the assets in the game. Also, they even can do the KYC, can do the exchange for their users. So the game assets become a real assets, is tokenized assets. That is good parts are running on Ontology part. And that's where be impact. They will be have attract more and more the traditional game application to convert to decentralized. Since this kind of economic incentive will be very important part for their users. So I believe more and more game will coming based on blockchain.
Obviously, Li Jun, there's a lot of interest in the gaming sector as well, and Ontology want to make sure that they don't miss out. But I wanted to ask you as well about any of the technology changes that you've been making, because NEO is about to announce a consensus, some major shifts with their push for NEO 3.0. They want to overhaul their NEO engine all the way from governance and beyond. Are you doing anything of that nature? Are you overhauling anything? Is there any new technological update that we should know about where the core elements of Ontology may be developing or changing?
Yeah, Ontology is we already show the information about the infrastructure level. For example, just the scalability and to the real business bridge and different things and multiple chains. All those is already in our roadmap. We have this roadmap is not kind of new things. They actually is already been launched when we kick off in last month.
Got it. So you're not overhauling anything. You're just continuing through, and you're staying true to your roadmap.
Our roadmap, our direction up to now is still, I believe, still is very the correct direction. We just follow our vision and keep push.
Okay, well, let's talk about your dual token structure then with the ONG and the ONT, because there's suggestions that NEO, as I was saying, may change their whole model. Are you planning on keeping your dual structure well and truly in place?
Still have no this kind of plan, and we will not to do that right now. And check this. We will watching and see the next the phase. Yeah.
Right. So you're keeping what you already have with ONG and ONT.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Now, what about with regard to some of the new announcements with partners? I noticed that Eric, who's well and truly involved with the Blockchain Education Network, he founded it. He was also involved with MIT Bitcoin Club. He's recently been announced as a US partner or as an ambassador as well. Why did you do that? What are some of the reasons for these partnerships that you're building now?
Actually, Eric is not only a partner or ambassador, he's kind of our member right now, the full-time member for Ontology in the North America. Since in the last year, also his first year of Ontology project, we are more focused on the technical progress, to build the infrastructure. But today, we already have a very strong or solid infrastructure. It's ready for, just like our this year's slogan, ready for all businesses. Next phase, we want to have be more influence in different, to find more different partners and to build application in different areas. Of course, the United States, Asia, and Europe will be very important market. All those markets, we will have our local team, not only partner, local team to build this kind of ecosystem, to let Ontology infrastructure will be used in more and more areas or countries. That is why we invite Eric to join us. Yeah.
So it was entirely pragmatic. It was very practical for you to almost in a sense connect with different parties globally so that you can expand your own network, utilize their own networks as well. And Eric would have them given his background. Now, in that sense, I want to talk to you a bit about the token itself, because as we've talked about many times, and we have to keep rehashing this, the token economic modeling of many projects just doesn't make sense. The correlation between a token and how you can build globally needs to be really succinct and needs to be provable, especially when we consider there's speculators and there's people who believe in ontology for the long term. What do you say to that, Li Jun, when people are starting to really demand more clarity as to how global growth in ontology can correlate to the token growth as well, because we just haven't seen that with many projects?
What you define for the token growth?
Well, that's what I want to leave that with you, because obviously it's difficult to talk about price directly. You really can't in your position. But how you determine that question in terms of growth, in terms of understanding and respecting that people are speculating on the utility of this. They're anticipating that this can grow.
This is one thing is actually they have a lot of solid projects in the blockchain industry right now, especially token-based projects. Since they have to show a lot of things to prove, okay, you are the team can be the long-term players for that. Ontology already showed this kind of evidence in the last 2 years. That's on our technology, the open source technology. That's on our all kinds of progress. That's all the marketing and the business progress and the ecosystem building and the team be there and have enough funding to support the long-term operation. All those kind of things, people, okay, there will be a solid project. So that is already built those kind of trust in the market, ontology. So they will check, okay, every day they have a new progress, no matter ecosystem, business, corporation, or the technical progress. When you have a long term to build those kind of trust, the trust will become is a value. Once the market come back, when people want to choose some good project, they want to support it long term. Okay, those projects have a reputation in history, will be a choice for them. Another part, those applications will be supported by more and more investor partners. They also have better opportunities to fund a real application. Of course, the whole industry is looking for a real application in different areas.
Well,
but those projects, yeah.
Okay, well, it's interesting you say that. Now, you've always talked about trust, and you've always expanded the network, whether that be from the infrastructural aspect where you've been, not just traveling and going on stage to educate people about what you were doing technologically, but now you're moving into enterprise, which is a step beyond having that initial infrastructural element. So in a sense, what many people could reasonably expect is that you should be expanding in the holistic sense, expanding in the network, expanding in value as well. So let's go back to the token for a moment. Now, many of the projects that we've seen in that first wave, whether they were Ontology, whether they're Neo, whether they're other projects we won't name, we've seen a trajectory where it's gone down. The value of these utility tokens have really plummeted just generally and stayed there. Now, that seems to fly in the face of all the work you've been doing with enterprise. Why would it be that way? Why is it that way? Why aren't we seeing more of that correlation where the value seems to couple properly with all of the ecosystem growth that you're literally building right now? And the reason why I ask you this, Li Jun, is because so many people are starting to talk about the value of equity, separating that from token. There's idea of utility. And obviously, you know a lot about both of those. You're very savvy within the crypto space as well as leading out the tech. So why are we in this situation now where it's a trough, and we've bottomed out in value, and yet Ontology is doing so much in terms of business building?
Yeah, since it's like it's depend on your token economy design. That is quite important. We more focus on enterprise level application. Not means the community, the DApps not coming. There's still a lot of community, the contributor and the teams and the application is building on Ontology. And but for our even enterprise, we want to have like a core team want to build more long-term application running on that. When they're running on that, you will find, okay, Ontology's token economy, you will get long-term return. For example, more and more application, the long-term enterprise level, large scope application running on that, more and more utility as ONT will be used. All the ONT will return to the ONT holder. That is the long-term logic for the value behind the tokens.
Got it.
That's why it's this is important for the investor.
Yeah. Okay, so are you saying very clearly that the enterprise use and integration of this token into their own ecosystems is going to directly affect the overall outcome for those who support the utility? Surely there's that correlation between enterprise and token.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For example, today the first OEP is ontology-based token, released token. First enterprise level OEP token have been just released called Oliver project. That is the traditional healthcare application. They have several million users right now, right? They will be launched on the OKEX today. They is based on Ontology OEP. All the transaction in the application in their token will have to use ONG token, utility token. The token be used, ONG will be returned to the ONT holder. If you think have more and more those kind of application coming to Ontology, they will be better. They will have benefits for the ONT holders. So that is reasonable logic for the token economy. Yeah.
I see. And it also explains some of the reasons why we saw that decline, because initially, obviously, as you distribute those tokens, some of them chose perhaps not to stay, and we're not really sure, but there had to be a period of time where things worked themselves out before you started to really garner all of that enterprise support. And now you're starting to build that support, and that should technically be ongoing now. If you look at it from more of the pipeline standpoint and all that you're doing, is it fair to say that from this point forth, it should only expand in number in terms of the enterprises that are starting to use Ontology?
I believe in the currently 1 or 2 years, you're still in the very earliest stage, the initial phase. And but still will have some enterprise or companies, even governments, they will try to run some service on public chain, even small. But they will, just I mentioned before, it's kind of a showcase. Once you have a successful case running, no matter how small, running in different public blockchain in different industries, okay, this will be better than the private one's business model. and then their progress will be very, very quickly. A lot of will convert to there. So in the first stage, early stage, we have to put more efforts to build those kind of showcase and prove the case is better than currently business process. That is our in this year or next year. Yeah.
Got it. Now in China, are you finding that it's getting better? Because right now, point systems have been proposed for some startups to get around the challenge of being a crypto. You have always had very strong ties with key players, all the way possibly to some just knowing some government parties. And I'm not suggesting that ontology is directly correlated, but you have prominence in China. So are you confident that crypto can survive in some shape or form and thus develop partnerships there that relate again to that connection between enterprise and ontology and token?
Yes, we are original built from China, but of course, ontology is a global project right now. And for the China, yes, some policy is just to protect. You cannot to funding from the individual investor. But if you want to build application for the enterprise level, that is still be encourage you to do that for this. And many cases, even they have some tokenized economic, they were not directly to for the individual investor to fund it. They just kind of utility. You can use that. Even some users, they can get the airdrop for free or sometimes. That is one thing. And also have lots of enterprise application. They have no token. The token is not necessary one. For example, this month we will launch a copyrights and virtual content application. There are no tokens there. They just use blockchain for the tracking and for the storage. Yeah, they also have their reasonable business models. So I think that's will be broke. You do that. Once the only things you care about is the new decentralized business model is better than the older one. That is key.
Right. Okay. Now, what are you doing to incentivize the community? I noticed that in the report there was a substantial number of efforts through bounties and applications and tasks to engage with the community. But talk us through some of the things you do with regard to airdrops, programs, and any incentive system that you might put in place to attract more people to utilize the ontology ecosystem.
A lot of incentive for that. We are more and more like the Apple Store. For example, there was developers, once their DApps running on ontology, the gas fee in the DApps, currently they will got 30% reward, the gas fee, the reward to the developers. They were better than the Apple Store. Another is every week we have more than 20,000 US dollars. The ONT will be rewarded to the top 5 DApps every week. So currently they are doing a lot of competition for those kind of reward. More and more application have enhanced their operation and community to got this kind of incentive, and a lot of boundary the program to support more and more teams have issue. And currently already have more than 300 different kind of modules and contribution to build the infrastructure level is from community.
Right.
All those incentive program is quite helpful for the whole ecosystem, and more apps and developers coming.
Yeah, and what's interesting too, as Li Jun, is that you've raised a lot of money when you first started, and you're putting that into these kinds of programs. Do you think that had you have raised in the bear subsequent to when you did, that you would be able to do these kinds of things? Because you certainly wouldn't have the kind of money. So could you just let the audience know as well, the community, how much you actually did raise, and if indeed that's helped you have more of this freedom to inject more of this capital back into the community?
One thing is the source. I mean, of course, the source include money, right? Can support ontology can be running in a long term, at least several years. We will actually needed to worry about the money resource. This is one thing. Another is in ontology allocation, the token still have around the 20% is to reward to the ecosystem, developers, contribution, and the rewarders. They will also support ontology ecosystem enlargement in the long term as well. And ontology's token economy, just I mentioned, is kind of a sustainable token economy. More and more application. Yeah, in the first stage, you use the incentive program to attract more and more application running on that. This application in the long term will have a brief more and more return for the ONT holder, for the whole community. Those kind of finally they will be sustainable by themselves. By itself can running as ecosystem. Maybe after 5 years or 10 years, the core team will not a big player. Important player to just support for that. Ontology whole system will running by itself, just like today's maybe Bitcoin or the other kind of.
So it can be more automated by that stage. That's the goal of being a truly distributed trust system. Yeah. Now, if we can go a little bit more into some of the partnerships that are mentioned in your reports and all the different documentation I've read, one of them is a Japanese accelerator. So I wanted to talk to you about what the relationship is with different countries, and we'll start with Japan in terms of specifically targeting different programs. Why Japan? What is it that interested Ontology to start to move into these regions?
Okay. In the especially in Asia or Southeast or Japan, you will find that Japan have almost no this kind of infrastructure, a blockchain infrastructure team or the project. But they have a lot of traditional large enterprise or even small enterprise traditional. Once they want to have some tokenized business, some decentralized service on running it, they will have to choose the existing public infrastructure, the blockchain. But also, when you review the market, there are only several projects you have choose, like for example, Ethereum or EOS, Ontology, etc. Right? And but we have advantage because for Japan as well one is we're very close for that is one thing. Another is we will provide the specific technical support or confirmation support for that part as well. That is maybe Ethereum or EOS cannot support for that part. So that's why we think, okay, Japan maybe is not a lot of blockchain project, but they have a lot of traditional business. They have a chance to build their own decentralized service. That's also why I want to do more.
And what about regulation? Do you find that because it's such a pro-blockchain and pro-crypto community, or country rather, that it's a great move? Because from my understanding is that regulation is something that's already built into the Japanese model.
Yeah. Japan's regulation is more clear than other countries. Actually, the whole industry, we are not looking for, okay, no regulation, no. We want to have a more clear regulation. The government should be clear, states let the company knows, okay, what kind of thing you can do or what kind of thing you cannot do. Yeah, that will be more clear. Japan is doing better for this part as well. Because
Got it. I thought that might have been it, and that's clearly why you're building out more partnerships with them. Now, what about with going beyond that? Now, recently you announced some partnerships with the stablecoin, with PAX. What is it about stablecoins that you like, and do you still see that there's a good chance that these can do well, given that you are partnering with some of them?
Yeah, since a lot of application ontology, they want to have a stable coin to support their some specific scenarios. We actually have talked to many different kind of stable coin project to run. The one thing is since ontology have a lot of enterprise application following, and we want to have meter regulation is very important. So that's why we choose PAX, because at least they have a regulation, meter regulation in United. That's why we choose PAX to do that.
So they have regulation in the US, and they're also collateralized in USD, which I found interesting as well. So clearly you're looking for more of that affirmation of business potential Because these businesses wouldn't do business if you didn't have something like this, I'd imagine.
Yes, some business application, once they want to use stablecoin as their service fee or other things, they have to make sure the stablecoin is meet regulation. We have a risk for that.
Okay.
So that is private, yeah.
That's good to know. Now, formal verifications. In the past, I've noticed that Certic has come up both for Neo, for Ontology, many other different prominent top-tier tech teams, and then what they're building. But you also have another one that you've announced recently with regard to customized formal verifications, and that's with, I'm not sure if it's pronounced Beosin or Beosin. Now, there's a launch there recently with them. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, well, already Ontology already have a formal verification called BUS. It's worked together with China partners, and works very good right now. And we are keep doing enhancement for this part as well. And but it works very well. We can do the formal verification for the new smart contract.
So once again, you've built trust in. Now, some interesting developments with regard to cross collaborations with other communities. One of them is with EOS. Can you talk us through why that happens? Why are you collaborating in some sense with other blockchain communities to build up the narrative of value?
EOS community is not kind of inclusive community. They are not only my community only support EOS. They actually want to support all the Solidity project. Public blockchain. That's why actually the largest community of US in China, right? So they currently they think we also they figure out Ontology's token economy and the node economy and those kind of reward is also reasonable and also have a attractive for them. And we discuss and our technical progress or ecosystem progress is good. They think it's time we can do the cooperation. We also need to find the good partners, except for the US. We find the new good partners. That's why you find, the largest US community already become the Ontologist node and the Ontology node partner. The largest Tron community in China also become the Ontologist partner. I think that's good progress. More and more people will choose, good project, they can do that. We also will have an exclusive policy. We just use, you have to use your better service, better technology to attract partners coming. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So it's good to know that you're building these things out. And then you hinted at Tron, and there's also a global community that you're integrating with or working with in some respects there. So as you mentioned, it's just about trying to find some of these communities and making sure that you develop alongside them and expand the network together. Are there plans to also work with others in the future beyond EOS, beyond Tron, as you build out?
Of course. For example, when you look to the Ontology currently, the consensus node group, right? And they have a lot of from the traditional, the big name, the traditional big capital and the traditional big enterprise, and also include a lot of large community, not only from Ontology, from EOS, from Tron. Of course, the next phase, if we have other kind of communities from our project, we also welcome the people coming. For example, lots of the big media in China, the blockchain medias, become our nodes and our community. That is also a good thing for that.
Got it. Now, going back to your tech for a moment, now many people may not know, but there's a lot of stuff going on in terms of your layering. You have all kinds of layers going on. You have your application layers, you have modular layers. Are there any key aspects of any of that you want to let people know that you've been building upon or you've been tweaking or working on, so that we know that the tech is still always paramount and that you're developing that?
Yeah, it's a lot of community members know Ontology. Beside the infrastructure, above the infrastructure, Ontology have another layer called trust collaboration. They have Ontology ONT-ID, decentralized identity, and the DDXF data exchange. The new version we're coming in this quarter. Another new version. They also can exchange all kinds of data through Ontology. And Another I just mentioned is the outsourcing. Outsourcing is to tracking and the information ontology. They can be used for the supply chain or different kind of scenarios.
Right.
And the outsourcing, we have a very large and also one of the top 3 signature service company in China already have built a partnership with Ontology. We will to build outsourcing and service, signature service together on Ontology as well. Those kind of this new module will come in following months.
Right, so you've got some big names coming and big signatures and companies related to that. Are you also looking at any other large companies globally that you could mention to us now that have interest in Ontology, want to work with you?
Yeah, if you check the information, and we have discussed the global company in China as well. But to be honest, all those kind of global, the large enterprise, they have a long progress to convert some service as decentralized service.
Right.
But we are keeping pushing that because it's worth to do it. And once the application there will be long-term application.
Right, and are they interested in Ontology specifically? What's the feedback been? Because obviously it takes a long time for them to switch into the blockchain in terms of frames of thinking, and you'd have to show them the value of it, especially when it's tokenized by a system design. Are they interested? Are they saying that they want to onboard? Are they saying they want to partner with you? As you start to explain more and more in your pitch to these potential partners.
Yeah, well, we use a step-by-step strategy. We don't want to, you need to build your whole service as a decentralized one. We want to, for example, we will use some small case as a showcase to show, in this point, you can do that as this way. You will have got benefits for that. And they can cut some the parts of their service to be a decentralized service. For example, we will announce a partnership with Haier. Is China's largest the electronic companies. We build some tracking for the food and those kind of application. So this is one of their service to be a decentralized service. So this is step by step. Next phase, we can find another service, specific service to build their decentralized. And once more and more service coming, you will find, they have a huge solution already, decentralized solution.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense, Li Jun. Now, as you talk about these different partnerships, and one of them you just mentioned there with one of the largest electronic companies, that would imply revenue as well. So is Ontology making money now? And is it a month on month, is it increasing this revenue that you are possibly making?
Currently, we are still not looking for the direct revenue in this stage. It's more like it's kind of investment phase. So the future in that phase, just mentioned, more and more revenue actually from the utility token be used in different applications. Will be retained. There will be the long-term more business models for public blockchain.
Right. So in context, these enterprises, they can build their own blockchains using the sharding technology, using their own sidechain system. But are they also going to be using fiat to support Ontology? Is there any means of payment from these enterprises to inject into the ecosystem as part of the offering that the whole suite of options provided by Ontology afford? Does fiat come from them to then have back-end conversions into tokens in any way?
Yeah, already have application. For example, the new application we're running, just I mentioned, they will accept the fiat as well, because we will have the gateway behind the fiat service directly to do the convert between the utility token and the fiat. And all the end users, they can use fiat directly by all kind of service, decentralized service directly. They will not be blocked anything. Okay.
Now, in that respect, also outside of the context of Ontology, you have OGC, which is an investment arm that's separate. Now, 14 projects recently have been part of, so to date, have been those that are supported by that investment branch. Some of them, for example, Top, Atlas, Certic, as I mentioned before. What's the agenda there, Li Jun? Because we've seen NGC initially be connected with NEO, but they're separate now. And NGC invests separately. Is OGC connected directly with Ontology?
Not so close. This year is the funding. They were the funds they were running by themselves. They also can strategy and the decision making by themselves. But of course, all the projects they invested, they were linked to will find some. If they have a potential parts can support the ontology ecosystem, definitely we are linked to this part support the ontology ecosystem. Yeah. So this is because we are the largest LP for this part.
Absolutely. Well, it's been really interesting to talk to you, just to provide the community with an update. Is there anything you wanted to say to finish off this May update for Ontology, so people are aware of everything you're doing? Because obviously there's a lot of questions the community have, and no doubt you want to relay as much information as you can, despite that you're very busy.
Okay. Just 2 points. One is just mentioned the 1 year ago or 2 years ago, Ontology is a long-term project. In the previous 2 years, we already proved this point. Every day we have progress for that. Another is we have a lot of technical progress and the parts we want to have a more and more global technical community. We're joining that to do contribution, something, or build your own application on Ontology. We will provide more and more better technical support for that part.
So you're optimistic of the future of crypto and of blockchain itself, Li Jun? I know that's a personal question, but it's something that I really wanted to ask you for the community, because right now, some people are suggesting that BTC, with its own unique ecosystem, it's designed to be in many ways a store of value, while everything else is trying to prove itself as a utility. Are you confident in the context of all of this convoluted crypto climate, are you confident some will come through, some will emerge successful and start to prove that they can be that prove their crypto economic modeling and start to really operate organically and work in the context of enterprise beyond the speculation? Do you think it can be done?
Yeah, of course. Long term, the blockchain project or infrastructure, you have to be the infrastructure to support a real business. That's part. You have the value. Even Bitcoin, they only kind of digital currency or assets. That is 1 or 2 projects can be this way, but most projects you have to have your real value as an infrastructure. Otherwise, it's not make sense. So we still believe the decentralized infrastructure is an important infrastructure, parts of infrastructure in the future. So blockchain still have a large opportunity to do that. But which kind of projects will be there is depend on how you're going, how you do your things right now.
Right. Well, I would imagine you're going to be standing up loud and proud and saying it's going to be Ontology as one of them. You seem very confident to lead this as the founder of Ontology. And I thank you very much for your time. There was no time wasted, no BS today. You get straight to the point. And I like the way that you wanted to engage with the community for free. This was a community update that was free for the people. Ontology really do support that kind of transparency. And I thank you again for your time, Li Jun. And hopefully we can catch up again for subsequent updates for the community as you continue to build, as those DApps start to expand the network. And as more importantly, you start to really show that you are enterprise centric for the real world, and you break those crypto borders down so that we can start to see this happen and flourish for a new conversation of decentralized business. But I do wish you all the best.
Thanks, Brad, and nice to talk to you. It's very great. Yeah.